In the year 2016, there were over 15,000 homicides in the United States. Now, I say homicides because I removed the suicides. Suicides make up a huge number of deaths in the United States every year. Not that those numbers don't count, but that's a totally separate video. I'm talking about the people who someone sought them out and murdered them, took their lives, not taking their own lives. Of those 15,000 homicides, 73% of them, or 11,000, were with firearms. So that's a pretty good amount, right? Now, of that 11,000 firearm-related deaths, 64% of those, roughly 7,100, were with handguns. You're being told on a very regular basis how deadly AR-15s are. You're told on a regular basis how deadly these things are, and we need to ban them because they're killing people left and right, and there's a panic, a mass panic. No one is telling you that 64% of the homicides in America that are gun-related are done with a handgun. Now, you want to know how many of those homicides are committed with a rifle? Let's go ahead and feed the media. Let's tell them what their numbers really are so they can know. They won't run with this number. They won't tell you this number. 4% of gun-related homicides in the year 2016 were committed with a rifle of some sort. Now, I don't have the exact numbers, but let me explain this very clearly to you. Very few of those were with AR-15s. Most of them were with bolt-action, normal, standard style hunting rifles. Not that a modern sporting rifle isn't. That's an awfully small number for the amount of panic that the media is trying to drive up out there. Now, let's break this down a little bit more because I like numbers, and sometimes numbers can tell a pretty clear story of not only what's really going on, but what we probably need to be focusing on. Still looking at 2016, only 71 people died in mass shootings. Again, the media would have you believe that we have mass shootings all the time because they include people, if there were 3 people shot, I believe that's the numbers that they go by, or at least the definition that they go by. If 3 people or more were shot, they call that a mass shooting. Only 71 murders took place at mass shootings. Again, not an acceptable number. That's not the purpose of this video, is to normalize these things. I'm not trying to do that. What I'm trying to point out here is of the 11,000 gun-related homicides in the United States in the year 2016, only 71 of those deaths, those homicides, were a result of a mass shooting of some sort. Not what the media would have you believe, is it? I looked at where mass shootings, where active shootings are taking place, and I found some pretty astounding numbers. This might be surprising to some people, but I found that 51% of active shootings take place at a workplace, at a business of some sort. That's where the majority, over half of the mass shootings are taking place, these active shootings. 22% of these are taking place at a school. 17% of these take place at public venues, concerts, places like that. And only 4% at churches. Now, that's a hot topic right now because we just had the church shooting over in Fort Worth area. So again, we're looking at the majority of these taking place in business places, but a pretty high percentage, 22%, at schools. Now, I know what you're thinking. He's going to start talking about how to fortify yourself or protect yourself at your workplace. No, guys, that's not where I'm headed with this. I'm a father. I'm a dad. No, I'm a daddy. Let's get personal here. My son means everything to me. I can protect myself, so I'm not going to talk about what we can do to protect ourselves at work. That's another video later on. Number one priority, our children. I'm going to talk about how we try our best to protect our children at this point. I broke these numbers down a little bit farther, and this was a little bit perplexing to me. It's broken down by time of day. If you'll notice, the vast majority of your shootings are taking place between 7 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, our children. I realize that the majority of these mass shootings are still taking place at a business, but that tells me that the mind of that evil, twisted individual that's seeking to do people harm works during daylight hours, works during business hours, works during school time hours. Now, we found that 56% of these mass shootings at these mass shooting events, active shooting events, were done with pistols, 27% with rifles, 14% with shotguns. Now, again, I'm totally dispelling the myth because the Media would have you believe that at mass shootings, I know earlier we talked about shootings in general, homicides in general, but the media would try to trick you into believing, and they're working on it right now as we speak, that most of these shootings are taking place with AR-15s. They absolutely are not. Obviously, these numbers prove that. 56% of these shootings are happening with pistols. So now we're talking about pistol rounds. We're talking about roughly 9mm. Again, this can be broken down even more, but most of the handguns out there are calibered in 9mm that are being used in these handgun type shootings. In homicides in general with guns, it's happening with 9mm, but definitely also at these mass shooting type events. What we're gonna do today is, with the use of my TAT 3D target over here that I introduced myself with at the beginning of the video, this is a little bit difficult to do. I don't mind telling you guys. I purposely went to a department store and I bought child themed stuff. Not only do I want to make this video as realistic and lifelike as possible, but I want to make it as real as possible. I don't have to tell you how tough it is knowing that I'm going to be doing a video shooting at things and go down an aisle and pick something like this out and pick the items out that I picked to put in here. Again, it really hits home putting a video like this together. It really does, honestly, guys. I'm not trying to get emotional or anything like that, but I don't mind telling you, it really makes you think about that threat and that evil that exists out there when you do that. Now, again, this is just a standard book bag. There's nothing special about this book bag other than it's got Toy Story stuff on it. Okay, what I've got here, a standard binder with some loose leaf paper in it. I'm gonna put that in here, okay? There's a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay, got my binder with my loose leaf paper. Next, I've got a composition notebook full of paper, of course. Put that in here also. It's 2020, guys. Kids are going to school with iPads, right? I've got an iPad I'm gonna put in here. Crayons, I'm gonna put crayons in the front. Again, let's be realistic about this. Last but not least, I have my Spartan Armor Systems Soft Armor 3A armor. I'm gonna put this in the back over here, okay, behind. In other words, right up against the back plate over here that the kid would be wearing. And it does tell you to put the label towards the actual wearer. So I'm gonna do that as well. There's actually a pocket in here. So what I could do is, not only by having this pocket in here, will this kind of stay out of the child's way, but it's also going to, I guess, make it to where it's going to stay in one place. You don't want this thing shifting, slumping down, or falling over anywhere. You want it to stay somewhat in the center so that in the event this thing is being used, it's in the right place. Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn this thing over. If you notice, this thing is made with the little swimmer cuts right here so that when you're mic, so I apologize if the audio is messed up, but it's so that your arms, you can still maintain your full motion. I'm going to turn this thing upside down. The reason why is because there's no reason, for comfort reasons, to put this in there like that. Now, they do make full square armor like this, soft padded armor that you can put in bags. This is just one that my friends over Spartan Armor sent to me, so I'm utilizing it. Again, I'm flipping it over so I can get a little bit more protection up around the shoulder areas for my child. So I'm going to put that in the pocket there. You see it's in there nice and neat. And we're going to go put some 9mm rounds at this. Now, one thing that I want to point out real quick, it's not just a matter of sending your kid to school with this. We have to be smart about how we train our children. Guys, it's 2020. We can hug each other all we want. We are not going to change the evil that exists out there. So we may as well adapt. We may as well beat them. I know in today's society, it sounds awfully tough and awfully mean to say you want to beat somebody. I want to beat anybody that would shoot at a child. I want to beat them badly. But we've got to figure out a way to not panic our children, to not send them into a frenzy going off to school, but to let them know that these threats exist. And guess what? Daddy is going to align you with the tools you need to protect yourself. And let your children know, when you start hearing gunshots in your classroom, I don't care what your teacher is telling you. I don't care what that teacher says. You need to be finding your book bag and get it with you, and then you follow all the directions for your teacher. But this needs to be the first thing you go for. Now, obviously, teach them that if the gunman is standing over the bag, you don't go for the bag. I mean, come on, let's be real here. Well, my point is, if a teacher immediately tells everybody, go stand in the corner and your book bag is on the other side of the room, go get your book bag first. You're not going to get punished for doing that, right? You're not going to get detention for that. But when you train these children that take this bag and either hold it in front of you or put it on in front of you. Simply slide it on like I'm going to put on our dummy over here from TAP 3D. Okay guys, I have 124 grain ball ammo, arm square ammunition in here, Glock 9mm. I'm going to stay at, again, these things are sometimes tough to talk about. I'm going to stay at that distance that I kind of expect these attacks to take place in, 10, 15 feet away. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to take 2 rounds. What I'm going to do is, since I know some of my items are a little bit lower down, like the iPad, I'm going to take a shot a little bit towards the bottom and one a little bit higher up so that we can maybe compare if an iPad was actually hit or not. Again, let's remember, this armor that's in there is made to defeat this. Okay, I just want to show you guys that it does. Low shot first. Okay guys, I don't have to tell you how unsettling this is to be opening up a child's book bag to look for bullet holes, but like I said, this is a surreal experiment here. Okay, I see that I was fortunate enough, our top round, it did go through the bag, through the binder, it clipped the paper, and then it popped into the armor up here, which completely stopped it. Nothing went through the armor. Neither one of those shots went through. But let's take a look. I'm gonna go, I see where the bottom shot went through the iPad. Let me pull it out first. Okay. Here's the iPad that got hit. All right. And that's where the round came out. So, and you can see it's straight through. You probably can't see the actual, I can see through it, straight through it. That's your iPad. Probably slowed it down a little bit. It's very possible that it even made it tumble a little bit. I can actually see the direction, my downward direction. I can see it entered here and exited a little bit lower back here. So that's that guy. The next thing was the composition notebook. Can't really tell if the bullet would have been tumbling at that point, but it's a pretty good sized hole, as you guys can see. Not a very small hole there. Our binder, yeah, you can see where it clipped the top of it. Barely grabbed a little bit of that loose leaf paper, but it did go through the actual binder. Again, my downward motion, you can see better here. Downward motion where I was shooting, it entered right here. See how it's way at the top here? And it exited a little bit lower down there. But the other shot, again, clean through. And let's pull our armor out. I have not messed with this. I can feel that there would be some trauma to the child. There's actually the 9mm right there. See our 9 that went through the iPad and everything. Yeah, that's it right there. See how it mushroomed out. And the other one should be in here somewhere. These are layers of like polyethylene inside here that make up this type of armor. So it's probably stuck between some layers. No, I feel it right here. Yeah, it's in some layers. So actually the iPad did slow it down because the lower bullet barely made it to the first couple of layers of the polyethylene or whatever. Again, I think that's the material in there, and was able for me to pluck it right out, where this other bullet that cleared the iPad and did not go through it, it's buried more behind those layers of polyethylene. So, you know, I can't retrieve it without cutting it out. So clearly the iPad did help slow it down, just like the other things probably did too. Again, nothing went through, nothing at all. To me, this is a success. Looking at how much coverage and how much protection this thing can provide my child, you know, there's probably some techniques that I would explain to him. You know, if you're going to put it on your front, pull it down the back to where it's going to raise it up in the front to get a little bit closer over those vitals where you normally want your plate carrier to be anyway. You could certainly show him or her from a plate carrier standpoint, okay, these are the guys that wear plate carriers and why. This is the position of them. So now you do the same. Again, this is a tough topic to talk about, but the beauty of having this type of armor is that it's made for an adult man. Our children's torsos are a lot smaller, so they're going to have a better coverage area with this type of armor. Now, real quick, I do want to show the effects of what a 5.56 round is going to be in this. We know it's not geared to stop it. It's probably not going to stop it. I just want to show the effects of that. Again, we have a much smaller percentage of mass shootings or even shootings at schools or murders in general that even take place with a rifle round. Again, we're talking about 4% of the overall gun homicides that are taking place with a rifle round. So it's very, very unlikely that your child or you will encounter that. However, let's go ahead and do it for the sake of showing. Okay guys, I put everything back in here the way it was, and I kind of took note of where the iPad is, because I do want to send around through it again. The armor itself covers up to about right here. The iPad probably is down here. So I'm going to aim for kind of this zipper area right here. And just see, if you'll notice, I don't have any sights on here. So I'm pointing and shooting. This is a brand new gun that I just got in. Strike Industries muzzle device on it. So I'm going to have to go with the old point and shoot scenario here. So let's see here, guys. All right, let's take a look at this one. All right, let's see. Well, there's where it hit. It hit where I wanted it to, right at the zipper. So who said AR-15s were not point and shootable? Boy, I barely got that iPad. I mean, I clipped the top of it. Wow, let's look at this. As you can see, you can see where the bullet came in through the bag here, went through the notebook, the iPad, everything else. You can see where it actually went through the armor, which again, it's not meant to defeat. This armor is not meant to defeat a 5.56 round, only upwards to 44 Magnum. But clearly, our notebook did not stand a chance. Our iPad, it appears that it just clipped the top of the iPad. As you can see right there, exited out the back right there. Went through our notebook. It may have been, the round may have been tumbling at this point. You can see not a very nice hole, not a very clean circular hole as an entry wound would have on it. So it's possible that this 5.56 round was tumbling at this point. And here's our armor. It's actually got a piece of actually this feels like hard plastic, so that must be the binder, a piece of the binder that was right there. And of course we had a hole that went clean through. As we expected, this armor's not meant to defeat that. I want to take a look here, see if I can get this thing off this guy without fighting it too much. I want to take a look. These TAT 3D targets are amazing. Yeah, you can see our round, it's tumbling. Yeah, the round is definitely tumbling as it comes out. See that hole right there? That's as it exited the, you guys get the gist of what I'm trying to do here, right? It's important that we work with our children. Guys, again, this is not an easy exercise for me, because clearly in my mind, the whole time I'm doing this, I'm thinking of my own son, my own child. The kid that gives me a hug when I run home, the kid that calls me daddy, the kid that I lay down, put to bed every night. It's difficult, but we can't not talk about difficult things because they're difficult to talk about. We have to address these types of scenarios with our children. I'm going to do a video, a very quick video coming up very soon on the heels of this video of ways that you might be able to address this with your child. Ways to try to teach them and tell them this is why and this is how, because they need to know these things. Again, I don't want to send my son to school freaked out. I don't want him in a panic. I don't want him paranoid. But like I always like to say, it's not paranoid. It's called being ready. I want my son going to school ready. I want my son going to school that if he grabs his backpack and puts it in front of him and it was not an active shooter, the worst thing that might happen to him is he gets detention or he gets in trouble. I'm okay with that. You know why? Because his instincts kicked in and he was prepared to prepare himself. I would much rather have this child protected in some kind of way going to these schools because, like I said at the beginning of the video, guys, the government is not protecting us. The government does not plan to protect us. They have made these school zones sitting ducks and kill zones by making them gun-free zones. That tells the killers where to go. It ensures to the killer that they're going to meet very little, if any, resistance. So we're sending our kids into these kill zones. In the meanwhile, we're paying millions upon millions of dollars every single year to protect members of Congress. Now you tell me who has more value in this world. The politicians in Washington, D.C. are our children that we send to school, an unarmed school, an unprotected and unsecure school, because these politicians have done their best to make this a kill zone for these children. Pathetic, guys. We need to change that. And if our politicians won't change it, and they never will, it's up to us to change it. And by changing that, we make our kids safer, we train them, and we make them more confident. That way they don't go to school in a panic.